Um, recording. It says it's recording. Hi, everybody. This is Barbara and friends, and today we're the friends because she's at a doctor appointment, and we've just been telling about Barb Richmond. Could you tell us again that invitation to a Thursday night wonderful call?
There's a call tonight on the Royal Alliance live, password Nikken1, capital N, where it's just going to be testimonials.
Hey,
This is an opportunity for you to invite people to hear other testimonials. They don't have to take your word for it. You get a different perspective, and you'll hear about different technologies that have brought benefits to other people. So I encourage everyone to listen in.
Nice. Thank you for that invitation. And we can share that with everyone. Well, today we want to talk about something that we also can share with everyone. And that's my new Zoom call. I'll just have my third one tomorrow. And this is a principle-based call of alternative things, natural things that help people. And it's designed for people really that don't know all the things that we have, because we've been studying. So these are some of the chapters in this. Well, okay. My Zoom is related to the book that I wrote about my husband's cancer journey. And the book will be coming out, say, in early summer. And it was just a really, really interesting, unique, very unique journey. So much so that after he died, people would ask me a question and I would tell them one tiny part of it. And they would always raise their eyebrows to the ceiling and go, wow, and say, you should write a book about that. So I finally did. So these are some of the chapters. And listen to just the variety, because back up. After he died, people would see me in the store and they'd say, oh, I just can't believe he died. He was so healthy. He was the #1 racquetball player over at BYU, wasn't he? Well, yeah, he was. He was really fit and he was really healthy, other than this one thing in his side that took his life. Somebody else would come up to me and say, he ate really well, didn't he? I just can't understand why he died. And you're thinking, people, there is more to this body than just the physicality of it. So listen to some of these chapters. Trust in the Lord, acidity versus alkalinity, Eastern versus Western methods, faith, water, energy work, cleansing, magnetism, green tea, supplements, a spiritual blessing, self-care, cesium high pH therapy. That's what Neil Duell was on. Raw foods, messages from beyond, Optimum Health Institute, Mexico. What's in the mind will find release. Now, essential oils, ending with a little bit of heaven. So what we've had so far is we've had MJ Pangman. All right. So my Zoom is tomorrow. And I think all of you have invitations to it. If you don't, you can email me, brewstersinger@me.com. And I'll send you an invitation. Tomorrow, she's talking about ATT tapping and EFT and the emotion code. So it will be very nice. On the schedule, we've already had Mike DiMuccio that's talking about what's in the mind. And then he went on even more on the 22nd. He used mine as a thought place, as a starting place on Friday. Then on the next Monday, go to his Michael DiMuccio, Aligning with Success, on February 22nd. If you have not seen that, it is dynamite times 10. He really, if you were on that call, you know, he really went on. And so he used my little forum as a beginning place. And then with us, Nikken people, you know, he just let it loose. It was amazing. On the 5th of March is going to be his daughter, Sophia. She has a site called the Mind Palace, and she has grown up this whole time. Again, if you want to see, look on 2018, a Nikken event, and I'm sorry, I don't remember where, but look up Nikken Convention 2018. And Michael had his 3 children, these 3 teenage children, come out on the stage and tell what it was like to grow up in a Nikken environment. And you and I know that doesn't just mean the healthy home and the bed you sleep on. That means what they learned, from, I assume Michael's mentor is Bob Proctor. He talked about his mentor. Didn't mention him by name, but I can't imagine it would be anyone else. And then on the 12th, I believe, I don't have the list right in front of me. Oh, no, it is. It's Randy Rolfe. And she again is going to be talking about, and she's going to be on Barbara's call on the 11th also, which is funny. But her big thing right now is talking about the basement of her farmhouse, which was all earth, and how the people that would come over would say, why do we never get tired? We normally get tired. And she realized the earth was giving them energy because nothing was blocking it off. And with her work as a lawyer, helping Native Americans with these horrible high wires over them, causing 2-headed calves, 14-inch dandelions, she is very passionate about the earth's magnetism and what it has for us. And so she's going to be talking about that with all her Randy passion on the 12th. Mine on the 19th will be Ted Aloisio, which is in my book. He's the one who wrote Blood Never Lies. And he has pictures in there of water, like maybe pie water. I have a picture in my book of pie water showing water before you drank, and the cells are all crunched together. It's called rouleau, which means rolled or stacking. And so these cells that are scrunched together, they can't get proper nutrients, because if there's another cell on top of that one, how can you get anything in between? 1 minute, every time this happens, within 1 minute after drinking Mag water, those cells all plump up and they separate, and they're moving all around. So they can get nutrients into all of them. And of course, as we know with Mag water, they're getting the best nutrients, and they're getting nutrients in a way that the cell, and I think Randy talks about this, that the cell membrane is charged. And so the charge becomes like a key, and our water has the key that fits, and so it goes into the cells. If you have water that has chlorine in it, the chlorine is a poison, and that is not the key. And so the membrane will stiffen itself and say, I don't want you. So a lot of the tap water that people have, it just goes in and it just goes out. So he'll talk to us about alkalinity. On the 26th of March, I have one of the nicest things that raises our energy, and that's humor. And that is going to be one of the top and one of the 2 funniest storytellers in the nation. And hopefully he'll tell us a couple of short, funny stories. His stories are usually about 20 minutes long. So hopefully he'll just tell us a part of a story. But, but he'll talk about, he's also has a master's or a PhD, and he's a minister. I have found, like you have, that many people who are really, really funny are also very spiritual. They get both sides of the coin. So let me just tell you one of my main experiences in alkalinity, which, as I said, will be Ted Aloisio on the 19th of March. And alkalinity is one of the things that starts out my story with my husband, because when you're working on cancer naturally, you first want to cleanse. This is kind of a Dr. Christopher thing, and all kinds of other devotees, Dr. Gersten, Lorraine Day. The first thing you want to do is to cleanse the body. And what you're trying to do as you do that is get the toxins out as much as you can. And so you don't want sugar, you don't want fats, and you don't want anything that causes more acid in the body. So meats cause acid, sugar causes acid, white flour turns to starch, turns to sugar, that causes acid. The environmental pollution, which is around us, that sometimes we can actually see, but there's still there, that causes acid. rays from cell phones and our computers, those cause acid. There is so much in our environment nowadays that creates acidity within us. And so we want to have as much alkaline foods as we can. I believe asparagus is the vegetable that's the most alkaline, except for barley grass, which we have. I should talk to Ted before he gets on and mail him some and have him try it out, maybe have him look at it. That would be nice for him to mention that. My big story that I have in my book is a story about, I'm sorry, I don't have a picture for you today. It's in the book. Our iguana, Nicodemus. Nicodemus was a beautiful iguana. He was a sea green color. When I was a little girl, it was my favorite color out of 64 in all of the crayons. It's the one I'd reach for first, you know, all sharpened and ready to go. And that was the color Nicodemus was. And he was about, you know, his body was what, about 6-7 inches long, you know, and then a tail about twice that. So he was just a young teenager. And we were really looking forward to that time that he would get big, you know, climb on top of the couch and, you know, and you'd kind of climb up on top of the curtain rod. You never knew where he was. Well, my son noticed that instead of, you know, proudly leaning up like iguanas do, he was like splayed and his hands were out to the side. And so my son shelled out $50 for a vet, and we went to the vet. And the vet said, well, what have you been feeding him? And we said, well, just what we eat. He said, what's that? And we said, well, you know, head lettuce mostly. And he said, green death. Why did you call it that? I asked. And he said, there's not enough calcium in head lettuce. And so his blood system has to have a certain amount of calcium. So he has been leaching the calcium from his bones to get into his blood system. His bones dissolved because we didn't give him the nutrients he needed. And the vet said, usually when they're at this stage, they'll die. He looks a pretty healthy fellow, he says to my son, to build up his courage, and gave him a prescription that we went and we bought for him. But the next day, by the time my son had gotten home from school, Nicodemus had died.
Aww.
And I still feel bad about that.
Aww.
Because here was this little creature in our care and we didn't take care of it. But as I say in my book, life is to be learned from.
Yes.
And I learned, you know, you and I have bigger bones and we are probably not going to dissolve like Nicodemus did. But how many people do you know have osteopenia or osteoporosis? Because the body is too acid and the bloodstream takes precedence, which so many of you are nurses and you know better than I do. The bloodstream takes precedence and it will do what it needs to do to have the bloodstream stay in the right pH. And if it has to take from the bones, so be it. And, you know, so Nicodemus was, to me, just a huge, I mean, I didn't, but I could have had Nicodemus on the front cover and that would have meant something to me. That's why I would have had him be there, because he's like my mascot. He's my hero that I remember of why I want to be more alkaline. What thoughts do any of you have about natural care or alkalinity or acidity or anything like that?
Barbara has her hand up.
Oh, go for it. I can't see everybody on this view.
I was just going to mention, I have had Ted Aloisio come to my bed and breakfast when we lived up in Muskoka. He used to come 1 day a month, and then we had to do 2 days a month, and then we had to do 3 days a month. And he would do live cell microscopy. And then I lost touch with him after I moved, and I've had him here to my little town that I'm in now. I had him here about 1.5 years ago. And he is very familiar with jade greenzymes.
Oh, is he?
Absolutely. He used to make his children's lunches for school, and he would mix the jade greenzymes in their egg salad, in their tuna salad, and so forth. And he tells a story about his son having a sleepover at a friend's place, or invited to a friend's place. I can't remember for sure. It was a sleepover. But when the child came home, he came running in the door and he said, "Dad, Dad, their tuna isn't green." And he used to get phone calls from the school saying, "What are you doing with your children? Because they are never sick. They never miss a day of school. What are you doing that's made the difference?" And he always, every day, his kids had jade greens. And when we had the little packets,
Mhm.
his kids would take a packet to school and they'd they'd lick their fingers, stick it in the jade greens and suck it off their finger. So he's very familiar with jade greens, very much so. My husband and I were introduced to him through another consultant. We were asked to go and give a presentation at a consultant's place in Kingston, Ontario. And the consultant said, "I've got a treat for you." She introduced us to Ted. We didn't know anything about him. We didn't know what he was going to do. She said, "He's going to test your blood," which he did. Now, he did us separately. And we waited. Then he gave us the results. And the first thing out of his mouth, he said, "You must be taking Nikken supplements. I can tell."
Wow.
And then he explained that all the cells were moving freely. There were no free radicals showing up. There was no acidity showing up. Blew us away. So it was at that moment that we decided we need to bring this man to town and have him do live cell on the recipients there. Now, I've only had him here the once because he charged less than the microscopist in town's charges. But people with cement between their ears, you know, they go local rather than somebody that's more knowledgeable. At one point, he wanted me to go to Chicago and take the course and do it myself. But, you know, it was going to be $10,000 out of pocket, which I just didn't have at that time.
Yeah.
And this is 15, 20 years ago,
Wow.
15 years ago, at least. Yeah. Very, very knowledgeable.
That's neat.
Yeah.
You know,
And he can tell when people are using drugstore nutritionals, big box store nutritionals. In fact, he'll call them out on it, or he has in my experience.
huh.
Yeah.
That's in case anybody, excuse me, in case anybody doesn't know, live cell microscopy is different than regular blood work. Regular blood work, and you know, Hattie Jane or Dee, you could tell me here, Betty, is by the time you look at the blood under the microscope, it's dead. So you're looking at like what was. Live cell is using, I guess, a slightly different photographic system. And so you're looking at live blood. You can literally see stuff moving around in the blood.
Take a pinprick of blood, puts it under the electron microscope, and he projects it onto a TV screen. So what you are seeing on the TV screen is your blood. And he'll move the slide around so that he can, if there's some irregularities in there, he can point them out to you. He can tell you if you have an overabundance of white blood cells. He can tell you if your red blood cells are healthy. It's fascinating, absolutely fascinating. So you really need to push his being a guest on your program. You need to push it out to everyone.
If that's so helpful, why don't we have more people doing that so that people can really see this isn't make-believe. This is what my blood is doing right now. Why don't we have more people?
Exactly.
Wow. I'm going to have to see if there's someone in my neighborhood. I've always, since I read his book, I just have been dying.
He's written 2 books.
Yes.
The Blood Never Lies and The Blood Never Lies Part 2.
Ah.
Yeah.
I'll have to get that. I don't have that one.
They're out of print now. That's the problem.
Oh, well, you can almost get anything on Amazon. let me show you. In terms of healing and thought, this book, in fact, you can maybe see how old it looks. The Healing Light by Agnes Sanford. This is one of the most amazing books you'll ever read. The book came out in 1947. So she was already, I believe, in her 80s when the book came out. And this is before I was born. And, and she talks not only about the relationship between thought and health and what you are, she actually teaches people how to do what she did. I have not had the patience to do it, but I've got to read. It's high on my list right now with about 6 other books to read it. And yeah, I gave Michael a copy of my book. I said, would you like to read this? He said, I would love to, but I have to let you know, it's about 4th in line. So when they get it edited, then you'll all be able to get it like a 99-cent copy on Kindle or something like that, and you can read it. So thoughts are really important. Let me share one other thing before I go to one of the last chapters in my book. We went to, well, no, I guess we're already there. We went to Optimum Health Institute, and they work, their book that they use is by Larry LeShan, called Cancer as a Turning Point. And he says cancer is the body's giving you notice that you need to change some things. And so that's how they look at it. And the other nice thing is, at the Optimum Health Institute, they never label anything. When you're there, you don't have cerebral palsy, you don't have cancer, you don't have leukemia, you don't have MS, you don't have diverticulitis, you have a health opportunity. And that's literally how they look at it. They're a teaching organization, Optimum Health. They're in Austin, Texas, and in Lemon Grove, California. And they teach people how to treat their body better. Sorry. One of the last chapters in my book is called A Bit of Heaven. Can someone just talk for a minute? I need to get this out of my throat. Somebody take over and say something wonderful. Say something about cancer as the body's giving you notice that you need to change some things.
Barbara, who was the author of The Blood Never Lies?
Ted Aloisio,
Ted.
Aloisio.
Spell it again.
Aloisio.
Okay, thank you.
Now, I'm going to speak up for a bit because we're in a recording area.
Mm-hmm.
Nikken is a wellness company that specializes in us touching into what is part of our health potential, but it's actually here. It's working. It has found an awareness that if we have a way of helping our body access the natural energy of the earth, which we always think of kind of as gravity, but it's more than that. Because the magnetic field of the earth keeps us in place in the galaxy. And it keeps us in place in other things. The sun, if we didn't have access to its solar energy, our plants couldn't grow. We wouldn't be alive, in this form anyway. So in many ways, we, as fellow distributors, we are encouraged to kind of not deal with direct disasters that have happened in our health environment, in our world, because it can elicit first fear within the individual, then fear of regulations, which has been necessary because previous sharings of other types of product lines have been disastrous. Just totally disastrous. Just think of using arsenic on your face because you want a whiter skin. Think of being exposed to selenium and using that because it made your hair blink and then you look prettier for a while, but it killed you. So our what we kind of groan about, our FDA has good reasons for saying, don't you go there, don't you say that, because we have an awareness that we really don't know it all.
Mm-hmm.
And what wonderful thing about Nikken is that it is so gentle, it's so consistent, so real, and it is simply we're being allowed to be aware of energy fields that people have been talking about. Were so ethereal, though it didn't make that much sense. But when our bodies feel something working differently in a more appropriate manner, and we have different choices than we've been having before without having to depend on the wonderful medications that have been developed, but they also give us this dry mouth or something else going on, or we hear something else going on. So it's a dance that, as distributors, we have to dance because we don't want to be shut down and we don't want to harm anyone because they did not understand how gentle and how time consuming some changes could be and how it does have limits. And only we in life will be able to tell that. But in the meantime, it brings a tremendous, realistic, real hope as we use our Nikken products. And I am so delighted with your presentation and your book because it is real and there are ways of looking at it. As to microscopy, one of the problematic areas of that is that it is live blood. And all of our testing is done on blood that has been put with fixative. So it is in a stable situation. So when they look at it, what they see in one blood sample is the thing they can see in another blood sample, then they can see in another person's health. They can correlate the group of it. Okay. So as a group, we have parameters. You have too little of this, that's dangerous. You have too much of that, that's dangerous. But in the middle, okay, we're working along. But it is, as you said, dead blood because it has been fixed and it's in place at that moment it was drawn. In microscopy, you're looking at a live sample, so you have a lot of things that are not even addressed in our normal laboratory testing. Mm-hmm. And the fact of using the type of microscope that he uses is not a routine microscope as we're used to hearing about in labs. It's a very, very high, you can see more stuff. Yeah. Because it's the type it is. So, and all of our laboratory values and so forth of what we understand about our health are based on this other format. So the medical world has a difficulty in recognizing as a valued access. That's my 2 cents, people.
Go ahead.
No, that's just my 2 cents.
That was fabulous. That was fabulous, Hattie Jane. And I'm glad this is recorded so I can listen to that again. One of the really important sentences in my book came from Ralph Moss, who is an engineer and a PhD, and he wrote the book called Questioning Chemotherapy. And he is just as neat and as smart as they can. And he also has gone on. His latest book was called Cancer Incorporated 2020. Wow. Get that book. It is so interesting about, and this is about how big pharma are the ones now that are paying for the drug tests, so this is a really, really bad idea. Anyway, his sentence in there is, in the medical field, scientists are second place. See, to you and me, like if you came up to my husband at a party and you said, well, Scott, what do you do? And he said, I'm a chemical engineer. You would go, oh, whoa, you're one of the smart ones. That's how we would respond. Like, you are brilliant. You're really smart. And he is. That's how we see scientists, but not the medical field. And so that's why the medical field doesn't think as highly of this microscopy is because they don't understand it. And this is just, I'm almost done here. I had one other important statement in my book that was in the footnotes. And then as I was reading the book to edit it, I went, oh, great, Elaine, the premise of your whole book is in the footnotes. And so I had to bring it out and put it in the text of the book. But it says, I have come to believe that the only way our Western medical system can become more viable is through prevention. And that doesn't mean the quasi-prevention of diagnoses, but the prevention at root of individual self-care. There's Gary Lindner's phrase, taking responsibility for what we put in and on our bodies. And so that goes back to what Hattie Jane was saying about, yeah, do this and it'll make your teeth, it'll make your hair. Oh, by the way, it might give you cancer, but who cares? So let me, if I can, let me finish. And I'm sorry, we're going a little over, but leave if you need to. My last chapter is called, well, not toward the end, A Bit of Heaven. As you know, who have been caretakers, it can really overwhelm you. I have a friend who was in Nikken and he had to quit because his wife developed Alzheimer's, and it was so full care work that he ended up getting a heart attack. He did live through it, but it is just so hard. And at one point I thought, he has got to die, or he's got to get better, or I will die. One of those three things is going to happen. It was just so overwhelming. And at that point, my local religious leader saw that I was in real trouble, even though you say, yeah, I'm fine, because that's what you say to people, right? I wasn't. And he saw that. So he started having all of these church people in my community help me. And it was really wonderful. And also, all of these people were praying for us. And then later, I went to Vermont on a church mission, and I was supposed to be there for 18 months. And I had to come home after 6, and it looked like I had ovarian cancer. And again, all those people were praying for me. I didn't, by the way. And, there was something else, and they took it out at Huntsman, and so I'm fine. But while they were praying for me, I felt it. I felt it tactily. It was like a bubble, kind of like bubble wrap, It felt like bubble wrap all around me. And I told them in a meeting of the ladies later, after I was better, and I said, I know you still like me as much as you did when you were praying for me actively. I know you care about me, but I don't feel the same thing because you're not actively praying for me. So, our thoughts, our prayers, the work that we do for other people is huge. And if you wouldn't mind, I'll try and do this and not cry. I have a song long time ago in a I should get my water. In a Nikken big convention, Bo Tanis had me and my husband come and sing a song for people at the beginning of the conference. And so this is a song that, all right, can you see me?
No, got Nikken Live on.
Oh. Okay, you get
Put your video on. Yeah.
Oh.
Sorry, Barbara.
Hi, Barb.
Oh, I've got to plug it in.
Don't worry, you'll figure.
Oh, I'm all right. I'm trying to do a touch screen because you get used to your phone.
Uh-huh.
And this is not a touch screen.
You have to use the trackball.
Get back
I
here.
did the same thing. There you are.
Okay, yay. All right. You go away. Yeah, save that. Go away, because then that comes over. All right, let's try this again. So anyway, I saw a song from Jekyll and Hyde that just made me think of my Nikken friends. Okay, now can you see me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so Jekyll and Hyde, it's not my song. But this song to me represents the help that I need from other people, and also the help that we can be to other people. So if I ever got to be gold or diamond or platinum and got to speak in a Nikken convention, which is not looking likely right now, then maybe I'll sing this, but that's a long time away. So I'm going to sing it to you now because I'll probably never do it again. I peer through windows, watch life go by, dream of tomorrow, and wonder why the past is holding me, keeping life at bay. I wander lost in yesterday, wanting to fly, but scared to try. But if someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. My heart would take me, and I'd feel so alive if someone like you found me. So many secrets I long to share. All I have needed is someone there to help to see a world I've never seen before. A friend to open every door, to set me free, so I can soar. If someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. There'd be a new way to live, a new way to be. If someone like you found me, oh, if someone like you found someone like me, then suddenly nothing would ever be the same. My heart would take wing, and I'd feel so alive. If someone like you found me, believed in me, helped me. So that's what I say. So ladies and people, let's go out and help other people. And I appreciate my Nikken community so much for what you all do to help me. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Elaine.
Sure.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
All right.
That was beautiful.
Well, I like the message of it
Yes.
because I
You
feel
can stop your recording now, Elaine, and then we'll chit chat.
I have got to get back and plug it in. So all right, you silly thing. All right, here we go. Recording. Stop.